From Washington, D.C., welcome to the 127th edition of the Harness Racing Alumni Show. I'm Freddie Hudson, and I'm here today with Trade Martin and Bob Marks.
The Harness Racing Alumni Show with your hosts, Freddie Hudson and Trade Martin.
This week's Alumni Show is brought to you by Bill Houghton, insuring standardbreds and farms for over 40 years. Bill knows the ins and outs of equine insurance. Make sure your equine investments are protected. Call or text Bill at 954-655-5547. That's 954-655-5547. Call Bill now.
Freddie, tell us about the yearlings at the sales by Huntington Farms.
Huntington Farms, selling their 2021 yearlings at the Lexington Select Sale, October 5th through the 9th, and the Harrisburg Sale, November 8th through the 12th. For more information, call 859-987-3983, Huntington Farms, or email huntingtonfarm@cs.com. Joining us today is standardbred owner Don Tiger, whose horse Charlie May won the Meadowlands Pace only to be disqualified. Don is going to fill us in on the details surrounding this disqualification. Don, welcome to the Harness Racing Alumni Show.
Thanks for having me, Freddie. Pleasure to be here this morning.
Don, what exactly is the status of the Meadowlands Pace disqualification appeal?
So currently I'm in an administrative law office hearing. I had no idea what it's like to file an appeal. And when I was disqualified in the Meadowlands Pace, obviously that was a gut-wrenching night. It was a rainy night. I was there. I was on track with a lot of family and friends, and there was a lot of action up on the turn. And when I watched it live, I didn't know what happened. So, like a movie, when you're watching TV and you're even watching a war picture or something, your eyes always go to where the action is. So that's kind of where I was. And when I saw the replay, then I saw what happened. I was like, oh my God, I got interfered with extremely bad. And they blinked my number. Obviously, I got disqualified, and I had no intentions of appealing because, being a long-time horse racing fan, I've been a fan since '87. I kind of just, hey, that's the way it is. But I had a bunch of calls from a lot of folks, attorneys, people, judges, and said, hey, this is something you have to appeal. So I went through the process, and I filed an appeal with the New Jersey Racing Commission, which was accepted. The appeal was accepted. And then I waited. And, unusual because you assume that if you filed an appeal that maybe someone would contact you in a couple days to a week and say, this person's assigned to you, this hearing, this is the process. And literally I had nothing. And my legal counsel basically said we have to wait, to hear from the commission. So, and my whole focus was to get in the Little Brown Jug. So obviously that was a feeder race. If you won the Meadowlands Pace, then you're eligible to Little Brown Jug, and which was a lifelong dream that has since been shattered. But I filed the appeal, and it took them 5 weeks to get a hold of us. And when they did, they assigned it to an administrative law judge in a law hearing, and that's currently where we're at right now. There's actually a pretrial conference on this Thursday, ironically Jug Day, and I think they're going to maybe talk a little bit about discovery and set a date, but a very slow process. But in the meantime, because traditionally in racing, and again, a lot of this stuff I've learned in the last 60 days, and the politics and things that surround racing, I wish I'd have ran dead last in the Meadowlands Pace because it's brutal, it's awful, it's not handled properly. There's so many administrative and procedural flaws in the system. But we reached back out to the Racing Commission, who basically sandbagged us and did not want to hear this case because they knew my intention of wanting to go in the jug. And the best way I can describe it is they just tried to run out the shot clock on me, which I have to give them credit. They did that successfully. But we reached out to them and said, hey, we'd like to have a stay. We'd like to, get my disqualification stayed, because typically what happens in horse racing, whether it's a medicine violation, whether it's a takedown, if you appeal, then you're granted a stay automatically. But we thought we'd take it a step further, and because the Little Brown Jug basically reached out to me and said, Leah, we're not going to let you in the jug, even though you won the Meadowlands Pace, and their guide did not say the official winner of the Meadowlands Pace. It just said, if you won the Meadowlands Pace, Messenger, North American Cup, you're eligible to supplement to the Little Brown Jug. Well, that's an advertisement. They're advertising for more people to come in, not to exclude people. So, we thought, hey, they're definitely going to let us in, but if not, then let's make sure we at least get a piece of paper from New Jersey. And so we reached out to the commission. The commission sandbagged us, so we reached out to the administrative law office where the case was transferred, and Judge Barron set up a meeting for us this past Friday, which I was in attendance. My two legal counsels, I got counsel in New Jersey, I got counsel in Ohio. There was two district deputy for the Attorney General's office. They had a couple representatives there and a judge. And in a 2-hour hearing, it seemed like no big deal. Like they were going to write me up a stay in paper so I could get into the jug. But again, I don't know what happened. I can only surmise that politics took in place again, because I didn't get the piece of paper that I was anticipating, and that should have got me into the jug. Never happened, and that ship sailed. So as far as where things are with the appeal, this is probably the most interesting thing I've ever heard in my life, and this is in America, which I'm shocked that this happens. But when you appeal in New Jersey, and I believe this is just a New Jersey jurisdictional thing, you get assigned an administrative law judge. Administrative law judge is on the same payroll as the Racing Commission and as the DA's office that handles the case. And regardless of what happens in my appeal, which we have an extremely strong case, this is probably one of the most unique disqualifications in the history of harness racing, actually in all racing, even thoroughbred, because normally when you have a disqualification on a racetrack, it deals with subjectivity of, did this person come in, did this person go out? Look at the Kentucky Derby. I've seen people on both sides of the fence with maximum security a couple years ago. Did the horse drift out? Did the other horse run up on his quarters? What happened? That's the key, is that we don't know, like, what actually occurred and happened. And it's a judgment call. But in the Meadowlands Pace, Stevie Wonder could see that it's not a judgment call. The 4-horse broke up the backside, took some bad steps. When Yannick Gingras kicked the earplugs on the turn, the horse is off stride. And both of his back legs there's pictures that show both back legs at the same time. A pacer can't have both back legs at the same time, or he's not in gait. So he's clearly off stride. He clearly slowed up. We clearly ran into the back of him, or would have if the driver doesn't jerk to the right. That's your culprit. And then in the lane, the horse breaks stride again. It's plain as day. But unfortunately, just like in the baseball game years ago, the Detroit Tigers, the guy's throwing a no-hitter, umpire makes a bad call. He missed the call. He cost the kid a no-hitter. The judges made a bad call, and they know it. Everyone in racing knows it. So that's what's interesting about this appeal. So if you get into a fair courtroom and you adjudicate the appeal, I really like my chances. I think my chances are, exponential. I think I think we win. I haven't talked to a legal counsel, and I've even talked to judges, both past and current judges. Most people won't come and speak out, but there at least people have reached out to me and said, you're going to win your case. I mean, the evidence is provided. But this is the trick. In New Jersey, if I have my administrative law hearing and the judge rules in my favor and says, Charlie May should not have been disqualified in the Meadowlands Pace, that ruling then goes back to the New Jersey Racing Commission, and the New Jersey Racing Commission has the option of upholding the judge's findings or disagreeing with him and still keeping my horse disqualified. So that's something to really ponder. Like, how is that? And we're talking about America. This isn't the 1870s where, laws were conducted maybe in a manner where, you were tried and convicted without evidence and they put a rope over a tree and hung you. Since then, the judicial system is, in my opinion, I thought, has gotten a lot better. But how can your appeal be heard by an independent judge per se, but it isn't an independent judge because he's on the same payroll, and then that goes back to the New Jersey Racing Commission to actually ultimately say, yeah, we agree with what we originally did.
Hey, Don.
That's not justice.
We know that the judges didn't interview the drivers involved. Did the New Jersey Racing Commission interview them?
So here's another interesting fact. What normally happens, actually, I talked to 5 judges, and they all told me the same thing. When there's an incident like this, typically right after the races, that driver is then penalized for the infraction. Brett Miller was taken down. Charlie May was taken down. Immediately, Brett Miller should get days and or a fine. That happened in the Kentucky Derby. That happened in the Hambletonian with David Miller. That happens all the time. When there is an infraction, a driver is penalized, period. They didn't do that. And they didn't do that because then they had a hearing with Brett Miller. And in his hearing, they basically asked him about the race. They asked him what happened. They questioned him. And at the end of the hearing, they found him innocent. Unprecedented. Never. He got no days. He got no fine. So I don't know. You guys, Freddie's been around at least 50, 60 years. Mr. Marks, I know, has been in racing forever. A horse doesn't drive himself. So how do you not penalize the driver and you're going to penalize the horse? So it makes no sense. And frankly, that if that isn't a basis for why my horse is appeal should be overturned, I don't know what is. I mean, it's preposterous, but it's a kangaroo court.
The other thing in your favor is I heard that Yannick yelled, indicating that he was in trouble.
He yelled, and he also turns into sulky. So I've talked to some other Hall of Fame professional drivers that are willing to testify for me that says when a horse in harness racing goes on the outside moving forward, the only time a driver turns into sulky and yells is when he's in trouble, because there's a code of conduct between these guys. They're all, yes, they're competing and everything, but this is their health and livelihood. They're there to look out for each other. And as, some Hall of Fame drivers have told me, safety first. So he yelled, and he turns into sulky. Which,
right, and
can you hear the yelling? No. But can you see him turning to sulky? Absolutely.
Well, there's another thing that goes with that.
Yeah.
There's another thing that goes with that, and this comes from me racing horses, is when you see when you see the horse's head disappear in front of you and the driver yells, you're pulling on that right line. Trade can verify that too, because trade.
Yeah, you go out. You have to go outside right away. You go outside right away, of course.
Because you think he's going down, and you don't want to be running the guy over, and you don't want to go down with him.
Correct. Yeah. Like I said, I think as far as if I could get into a courtroom that is unbiased, I'll take my chances any day of the week. But unfortunately, as I just outlined, that's the procedures in an appeal in New Jersey. I believe it's not that way in all jurisdictions, but to say that the folks that made the decision that day get to make the final decision, regardless of whatever any other judge or findings that would be out there. I mean, I don't know how barbaric that is. I'm actually embarrassed that part of the legal system exists in anything, whether it's horse racing, appellate courts, stealing a car or whatever. I mean, imagine that the judge, the jury, and the executioner is the same person. And there's, who's going to regulate the regulators?
Right.
That's the $1 billion question. And you're taught that the judicial system will do that, but I think in this example, it's a perfect example that's not the case.
Don, my last question to you: what's the next move? And if you can discuss it, please do so. If not, I understand what the legal issues.
Well, I think the next move is I'm a pioneer, and I'm somebody that what happened to me. I'm a glass half full guy. I'm really happy. I've had a great year. I had a horse make $500,000. That's a homebred, and it's a great story. It'll be the greatest story never told because of what happened in the Meadowlands Pace. But at the end of the day, I'm going to fight this as far as I can. And it's not going to end at the appellate process. We've got numerous things here. We've got civil rights violated. We've got procedural law violated. I mean, we'll take it as far as we can. I mean, I'll take it to the Supreme Court if I have to, if they'll hear the case. That's where I'm prepared to do, because the evidence, you can't argue with the evidence. And there's always the saying, the truth will set you free. At the end of the day, hopefully someone will listen, and this will get adjudicated properly.
Okay. Crawford Farms, breeding the best to the best so that you can race the best. The Crawford Farms consignment will be selling at the Lexington Selected Yearling Sale on October 5th through the 9th. For more information, please visit Crawford Farms' website at crawfordfarms.com. If you're buying or selling your home, Joe Rico is your go-to guy. Joe has been representing buyers and sellers on Long Island for 30 years. He is an expert in all types of sales. Don't settle for average. Call or text Joe Rico today at 516-524-4870. That's Joe Rico at 516-524-4870.
Fred, give everyone Joe's email address.
That's Joe Rico, C21@yahoo.com. Don, I want to thank you so much for being a guest. We wish you a lot of luck in this case, and we're going to be following it very closely. If you need to come back on our show, you have an open invitation. This is Freddie Hudson. That's a wrap for this week's broadcast of the Harness Racing Alumni Show. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to tune in next week.
The Harness Racing Alumni Show